Hi and welcome everyone to the 40th episode of The Little Inside. As usual, my name is still Tobi, and this week we're going to talk about how to deal with panic attacks. So don't panic, we'll get started right after the intro. So many people that I meet here at our classes or the retreats actually tell me that they suffer from panic attacks, some actually quite frequently. And I have a good friend who has asked me to talk a little bit about panic attacks and how to overcome them, how to deal with them. So this week, that's what this video is all about. I'm going to talk a little bit about panic attacks. I myself have suffered from panic attacks in the past, or not very frequently, but I do know what the experience of a panic attack is like, and I also know what could help you while you're experiencing a panic attack. It involves 4 simple steps. So let's get started right away. So before we go into the actual step-by-step methodology of dealing with panic attacks, I want to make clear that very often it is not just sufficient to watch a YouTube video and then feel that, okay, now I can deal with my panic attacks. It might be the case, maybe some of you, and hopefully some of you experience great relief through this video, but very often it requires a procedure in which you're sitting down with a good friend who had some grasp of how to deal with panic attacks, or can guide you through the process, help you, be at your side, and kind of observe the process week after week and see that you are getting actually better while on the way out of these panic attacks. So it's very, very important often to have a partner to talk to, someone that is skilled, someone that really knows where panic attacks come from and how to deal with them, who maybe has some experiences themselves. So this would be very important. And in some cases, of course, there might be cases where medication might be helpful, visiting a psychologist and so forth might be helpful. But in any case, just to make clear that this video is not a replacement of having human contact and actually interacting with someone who can guide you through this process, that would be super important. So now, without further ado, let's get started with step number 1. Step number 1 is all about preparation. That's what happens before you actually have a panic attack. You gotta have a very clear goal in your mind, a very clear step-by-step method in your mind, and you want to practice that before the actual panic attacks arrive, before the panic actually starts to arise. You feel really uncomfortable in your chest, you know it's the onset of the panic attack, the breathing becomes more heavy, you start to break out in a cold sweat, you feel really uncomfortable, really restless and all that kind of stuff. If that arises, then you want to have a very clear plan, something that you have practiced. You can say like practicing swimming on the beach while you're still not in the water. You want to kind of know how to move properly before you actually go into the water and swim. The same is true for panic attacks. When you start to apply the techniques while you're already in the middle of the heat of a panic attack, it's going to be really difficult. So that's why we need a proper plan. You want to prepare yourself mentally before the panic attacks happen. Let's say you have a very quiet afternoon and you have some time for yourself. I recommend you to sit down and actually visualize the process of a panic attack arising, and then visualize yourself going through the right type of response. And the right type of response, of course, that's what the remaining 3 steps are all about. The second step, which is then the actual step of action that you take once the panic starts to bubble up, is acceptance. This is something that's really important. It's very often overlooked. We immediately tend to approach something that is unpleasant and very powerful, like a panic attack, with resistance. And it's that very resistance that builds the power of the panic attack. It kind of makes it stronger, it feeds it. Panic lives of your resistance. It feeds from your resistance. So it's really important to, right at the beginning when the panic is still weak, it's kind of creeping up, slowly your breath becomes more heavy and so forth. Notice that in that very moment, there it is, that's the panic attack. And I'm going to accept that right now. Tell yourself it is perfectly okay to have a panic attack. It is part of your makeup, you can say, of your mental setup. It's part of who you are. Otherwise, it would not arise in this moment. So it's almost like something, your mind is trying to tell you something very urgently, like a nightmare or something. Your deeper, your subconscious mind is breaking through. There's a very urgent message. Almost like your whole system tries to shake you awake. Very often that's where panic actually comes from. It's also where nightmares during the night actually come from. They come from things that we repress, that we don't want to face, we don't want to look at. And if you kind of push something aside for long enough, then it builds a certain momentum. It can build a certain energy through this all the time, resisting it, pushing it down, resisting it, pushing it down, ignoring it. Then at some point it can break through in the form of a panic attack or a nightmare and so forth. And so the very first response to that should be a response of acceptance. Tell yourself it's perfectly fine to have a panic attack. It's part of this moment. It already is. So it doesn't make any sense to actually say no, but it should not be, because it's truth. It's right there. It's right here already. So accept it. Ideally, you want to accept it with a notion of kindness. Kind of welcome it, say, hello, panic. I know you already came here many, many times, and I know your agenda. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to start to breathe heavily, and I'm going to feel a bit uncomfortable for a little while. Walk yourself through this. Actually explain to yourself what is going to happen. And you are the expert, right? You know very well what happens when you have a panic attack. So you can start to walk yourself through it. That requires you to actually stop whatever you're doing if you can. You want to stop whatever you do, sit down, and now pay attention to this process. Give it some space. Allow it to be there. Now the third step is all about anchoring your attention with your breathing. Breathing is a very powerful process. You want to breathe deeply. This is kind of the step that happens after the acceptance. You say, it's all right. The panic is there and it's doing its thing, and I'm okay with that. And now I'm going to switch over to a deep breathing technique to help me to get through this difficult few minutes. So deep breathing, how do you do it? Excuse me. So you want to breathe in a way that your belly inflates. Here, when you breathe in, you can do that. For example, you can practice that if you lie down on your bed or lie down on the ground and put a bunch of heavy books on your belly and then lift them as you breathe in. Allow them just to be lifted up as you breathe in. As you breathe out, simply relax back. Train that for a while. Then also you can put both of your hands onto your lower rib cage, and as you breathe in, simply feeling the lower rib cage expand. If my fingers were my ribs and you breathe in, particularly the lower section of the ribs where the diaphragm is, as you breathe in, feel that kind of little expansion, breathing into your hands, which are holding at the side of your rib cage. You can do that while the panic is there. You put your hands there, put your hands on your belly, put your hands on your lower rib cage, and as you breathe in, you want to count maybe to 5 or to 4, breathing in slowly in a long, steady way, breathing deeply, allowing your energy in the body to sink, your attention to sink to the lower energetic centers of your body. As you breathe out, allow yourself to relax, and now that's important, relaxing around the panic. You're not trying to relax the panic away. That would be the tendency in that case. Most people experience it like that. You don't want to push the panic away or use a fancy technique of quiet and deep breathing to get rid of the panic. But you want to relax around the panic. In other words, Yes, the panic is there, but I'm going to breathe deeply and in a relaxing way anyways. The final and fourth step in this process is when the panic invades the serenity of the breathing again. It comes back up in you and it goes, yeah, but there's a panic and you should hyperventilate right now and you should do something. It's really bad. You're going to die. You're going to go crazy. All that kind of stuff that comes up in your mind, these thoughts that are purely designed to feed into the panic, to keep the panic going. They're actually part of the panic. All these panicky thoughts, all these panicky emotions and feelings of, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? That is part of the panic. In a way, it's the panic talking. So whenever that comes up and interrupts your breathing process, it pulls your attention away from your breath towards mental content, like the future, for example, or the past. Very likely that you're going off into the future when you're having a panic attack, right in that very moment. Like, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to die? My heart is pumping really heavily. Talk calmly to yourself anyways. Now I'm going to see these thoughts, and I'm going to see these emotions as impermanent. There's that famous quote, this too shall pass. But you want to see it more directly while you're having a panic attack. Breathing in, feeling the energy in the body raising up or going crazy, going around, the panicky energy. And as you breathe out, see in what way does it change. So breathing in, feeling the panic in the body, the way it expresses itself as energy. If you can, don't even call it panic. Call it energy. It's kind of reducing the panic from that very bad thing to a natural energy. That's what it really is. It's a natural energy that goes through the body. As you breathe in, how does this energy move? As you breathe out, how does this energy move? Just feel, where is the panic based? Is it more in the upper centers towards the throat? Is it, some people say it's in their head. Some people feel it in their belly, on the solar plexus, kind of tightening, contracting. Feel into the panic. That's part of the first step, really. The second step, accepting the panic. And so you want to work all these steps together, and eventually with training that will be more and more easy. Accepting, breathing, and recognizing all these panicky emotions and thoughts as being impermanent. They do not last. The feelings are unstable. They vibrate, they buzz, they expand, they contract, almost like fireworks that are happening inside of your body. So I'm going to repeat all those 4 steps real quick. The first one being the step of preparation. You want to practice that, go through it in your mind again and again. So when a panic attack comes, here's what I'm going to do. 1, I'm going to accept it. How will I do that? I'm going to tell myself that it's perfectly okay to have a panic attack. And I'm going to welcome my panic, smile at it, allow it to be there, treat it as a friend, as good as I can. And I'm going to practice this as a skill, something that can grow. Secondly, I'm going to bring my attention then to the breathing, relaxing around the panic, not trying to get rid of the panic. The step of acceptance is still valid. Instead, you want to relax around the panic, melting around the panic. Well, the panic's over here, and I'm here with my breath. Both is okay. And the third and final step, once the panic has actually arisen, is then to reflect. When the panic breaks through the serenity, when it breaks through your practice, when it becomes so powerful in its marketing, in its advertising, to pull you back in, to buy into it again, in that very moment, you want to reflect that these thoughts and these feelings do not last. They are unstable, and they do in fact change with each breath you take. So all of these 4 steps, they obviously take practice, and time to perfect, but they do work 100%. Of course, it would be really, really good if you do have like some sort of teacher or someone around you that can actually walk you through that while you're experiencing a panic attack. Well, some of you have actually experienced a panic attack together with me, and I was walking you precisely through these steps. And I do hope that you can still keep that practice up, and that this video actually helps you to recall these 4 steps, and that it really helps you to lead a better, more fulfilling, a happier life where you're not bothered by something that arises purely in your own mind and in your own physiology, in your own chemical makeup, and all plays together in a way. If you can get out of this, that would be wonderful. That's my wish. Now we're coming to the end of episode 40. I hope that this video was, as usual, useful for you, and that you find some information that actually is practical, that you can apply for yourself and make your life a bit more enjoyable, a bit more comfortable, and to see deeper into the way the mind works and makes us suffer unnecessarily so often. Now, if you do have any questions or comments, feel free to write them down in the comment section below. And I'm looking forward to see you all again next week. I wish you a few wonderful, mindful days, and say goodbye for now. Bye-bye.